My name's David Ladding, and welcome to Mythunderstood. My entire purpose behind putting this project together is to show you the beauty of goodness, truth, and beauty through the minds of people who have walked before us. J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, George MacDonald, G.K. Chesterton, Edmund Burke. The list goes on. There are geniuses who saw something about our world, about the reality in which we live in, that I think needs to come forward again in our thought, in our thinking. Poetry's been lost. Philosophy is being lost. It's being broken. There's theology that has been forgotten. You get the point. There's mysteries about our world. There's beautiful things. There's true things. There's good things about our existence that must be known. So I'm beginning this series with J.R.R. Tolkien. I believe he is one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. We all know him for The Lord of the Rings. You might know him for The Silmarillion, but do you know him for his walk with God? It's a fascinating one. It's a remarkable one, and it begins in South Africa. His father was a businessman, and looking for opportunity, he actually went to South Africa, and he passed away. He died. It's brief, there's not a lot of information about it, but it made Tolkien alone with his mother along with his brother. So they did not want to stay there in that graveyard, basically, at the time. It was a jungle. They came back to Sarehole, England. It was a small, quaint town that eventually inspired the Shire. So you can imagine it, okay? It's a beautiful, small, not lazy, but simple place. Now, Tolkien's mother actually converted to Catholicism, and this was a big deal. See, her whole family, Tolkien's entire family, they were Protestants. They believed in Jesus, yes, but they practiced the Protestant perspective. They practiced through the Protestant church. And once Tolkien's mother left and went into Catholicism, they were ostracized. It was a deeper movement from their family than excommunication. It was a bigger moment, I should say. It was like utter restraint. Now, his mother got sick. At 12 years old, she died. She had diabetes, but because no one was able to help her, and because she was literally abandoned by her family, people believe she died sooner than she was supposed to. It was a brutal time, and it did something to Tolkien. It did something that shaped his theology. I have a letter here to Father Francis Morgan, 1936. My own dear mother was a martyr, indeed, and it is not to everybody that God grants so easy a way to his great gifts as he did to Hilary and myself, giving us a mother who killed herself with labor and trouble to ensure us keeping the faith. Because Tolkien viewed his mother as a martyr, he saw it as his responsibility to continue his Catholicism. This will actually cause a jading, not a moment, but really moments in his relationship with C.S. Lewis. We'll get to this later, but you have to know this about him. He wasn't just a Catholic, he was a Catholic. Now, Tolkien always loved academia, and he actually got a scholarship to Oxford University to pursue knowledge, to pursue history, to everything that he loved, which would soon influence The Lord of the Rings. But before he could really begin his academic career, him and his friends were taken into World War I. His friends were Geoffrey Box-Smith, Robert Quilter Gilson, and Christopher Wiseman. Wow, these names are British. And they were part of the Tea Club and the Moravian Society. It was an organization, a club. Them four, they were dedicated to restoring the world with truth, beauty, and goodness. They believed that beauty was to save the world, utterly convinced of it. And Tolkien's mother has died. His father has died. And now he's in the trenches of World War I. And many of his friends died. There's actually an image of Tolkien and his classmates. There's only a select few out of the, I believe, 20 or to 25 people who survived. It was like 5 or less. And Tolkien was one of them. World War I wiped out a generation. The forgotten generation, we call them. They're forgotten because the war soon after in World War II, it took the stage, but I cannot express to you the hell that Tolkien was faced with. I mean, out of the TCBS, like 2 of his best friends died, along with many other people he knew. The wars themselves were horrific. Like, can you imagine being in the Badlands, in the Deadlands, in the... it was like being face to face with hell. These amalgamations of war, of machinery, only designed to kill you. Like, this is when the worst machines of war were made. Can you imagine wearing a potato skin gas mask, like having to walk around afraid to look up too high because you'll be killed because there's a constant watch to literally take your head off? Like, this war is discussing not even just that, but the bodies. You couldn't do anything with them. You're on the front lines. Where do you put all the dead men? You can't throw them before you, so you have to throw them behind you, and let alone the grave is already out there because every other day you would be charging the enemy line, and it was basically, how many men can we throw at you, and how many men can we throw at you, and let's see who survives. It was a bloody card game that no one was winning and everyone was losing. It was hell. It was truly hell. And in order to survive, what do? You have to hold on to an ounce of hope. And so Tolkien, he decided to create a language. He decided to create a language of the angels, known as Elvish. This is where Elvish began. It was, I believe, because Tolkien was facing demons. The darkness, the hells of the world. He had to combat it. So did his friends. Geoffrey Bach Smith was one of the members of the TCBS, and he too grappled on to light. He was writing poetry and many number of works within the trenches, and he wrote Tolkien one letter, and it was quite haunting. He says this: "My chief consolation is that if I am scoopered tonight, I am off on duty in a few minutes, there will be left a member of the great TCBS to voice what I dreamed and what we all agreed upon. For the death of one of its members cannot, I am determined, dissolve the TCBS. Death can make us loathsome and helpless as individuals, but it cannot put an end to the immortal four. May God bless you, my dear John Ronald." J.R.R. Tolkien. "And may you say things I have tried to say long after I am not there to say them, if such be my lot." He died a few nights later. The letter got to Tolkien, but I can only imagine finding out that this was the case. This is what makes Tolkien's life so interesting, and this is why he's a subject of mine so frequently, because it seems that God was truly on his life. It seems as if God was walking with him. Tolkien did something. He splintered the darkness with light. It's not just about writing a language of Elvish, it's about hoping. His father's dead. His mother's dead. His brothers are dead. His friends are dead. He is face to face with Satan, and he says, "Come what may." This is a remarkable man. It's a man worth talking about, and it's a shame that he's only known for his fantasy, when in reality he knew something greater, something far more greater, something far more beautiful. Here it is. I'm going to read you some Elvish because I think you need to know it. Helen Shela Lomen Omenti Elvo. A star shines on the hour of our meeting. Now, the elves have this angelic language. They have a language that flows like a stream of water. This is the language that Tolkien, of course, wrote in the trenches. The light that I'm talking about piercing the earth. It's because it's so bound to hope. It's so bound to the light that he sees in God. But the nature of elves are fascinating. There are these immortal, noble, wise, fading, sorrowful creatures that long for rest. They long for death, but they can't actually be given it. It's not that they're just these emo creatures walking around depressed. It's not that. Tolkien's view and his philosophy of death was better. He saw it as a gift from God, a great humbling, something that should be embraced in its natural time. And the elves were never given this rest. They were watching the world around them decay because the world they were in was fallen. Tolkien's philosophy of elves deserve an entire episode themselves. So forgive me, but we must move on. J.R.R. Tolkien was eventually hired once he left the front lines after developing trench fever. He was hired at the Oxford University, of course, and he was appointed a remarkable position. He was appointed the chair of the history of the Anglo-Saxons. Now, this is a big deal. It's super niche, but no one ever really did this before. He was appointed at a very, very young age. He was 33 when he received a very prestigious position at a prestigious school. And you have to understand, this was not normal. He worked on the Oxford English Dictionary. So, fun fact, if you ever seen one of those, you're holding a piece of Tolkien. And he crushed it. So they gave him the job. This is where he met C.S. Lewis. They met in 1926 at a English faculty meeting. So within Oxford, it's actually one of my favorite places. It's not just like a school like UGA or LSU or UCLA. It's a lot of schools in one basically area. And these schools are in different buildings, but they're all together. It's like the ultimate college town. It's really cool. I really love it. Almost like a Hogwarts situation in a sense. Gosh, this is not right, but I have to work it out now in my head. You have like the different 4 houses, but they're in the same school. It's kind of like this. So like I'm saying Oxford University, but technically it's the university within Oxford. Okay, I digress. He was in a really good house. Tolkien was in a good house. Hufflepuff and Gryffindor are having a dinner together. That's where C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien meet. And they loved the same things. They loved mythology. They loved literature. And they loved specifically one story, the story of Beowulf. Now, Beowulf has been long forgotten because media hasn't been able to do it right in our age. But in the literature world, Beowulf is a formidable opponent. It is a remarkable piece of literature because it has something in it, which is Jesus Christ. Oh man, I'm excited. Beowulf tells a story of this heroic warrior. He defeats this monster, this demon basically called Grendel. And later this demon's mother tries to kill Beowulf, but it's Beowulf, so he wins. Later, Beowulf is killed by a dragon. He's very old. It was almost like a laying down of his life. The guy was tired. I'm doing the story of Beowulf a total injustice, but we have to move on. Tolkien and Lewis loved it. But the reason why I'm telling you this horrible version of Beowulf is because, does it sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? It sounds a lot like our fairy stories. Dragons, these monsters, a vengeful mother. Like, it's almost comical. Like, this story, while so ancient and was so well studied by historians, seems so elementary. But that's the point. That's the point of Tolkien's philosophy and his worldview, and our definition of fairy tales has been lost. Fairy tales, we think of the childish stories. We think of the the enchanted Elsa or Cinderella. That's only recently. This is what Tolkien has to say on fairy stories. Enchantment, which is what the fairy world produces. Enchantment produces a secondary world into which both designer and spectator can enter, to the satisfaction of their senses while they are inside, but its purity, it is artistic in desire and purpose. C.S. Lewis says the medieval universe is like a work of art, the fairy stories, or like a piece of music. It is not primarily meant to be believed, but to be contemplated, admired, and enjoyed. Lewis and Tolkien both agree. Theos University. Theos University is an online theological library of remarkable courses, philosophical courses taught by Peter Kraft, okay? And an Islam course that I've heard is just insane, taught by your very own David Ladding, okay? You need to go. You need to subscribe. The link is in my description. Use code Theology, all caps, I really thought about it, to get 15% off. If you've been wanting a biblical background in academia, if you've been wanting to learn more about our faith, this is the place to do it. YouTube's great. Theosue might be even better. Lewis and Tolkien both agreed enchantment was vital. Enchantment was vital because it produced wonder, which then gives access to beauty. And as Peter Kraft says, beauty has a way of finding you. Now think of this, okay? What is your favorite beautiful thing? Think of a food or a piece of music or even a person. Did you hunt for them? No, they found you. And Peter Kraft does a remarkable job of explaining this process, is that it happens. And this is the beauty of wonder. Wonder happens to you in the same way that beauty does, like truth. Truth, yes, is found, but it is often found by those who are looking. You almost feel like you run into truth after looking for it, and I don't want to become all ethereal with my ambiguous descriptions of the transcendentals, but you have to understand wonder is found, it's brought upon, almost like a wind. And enchantment, okay, the fairy stories are the vehicle in which wonder can access our minds. Does that make sense? I don't know because I can't hear you. Let me know in the comments down below. C.S. Lewis actually wasn't a Christian his entire life, but it was through conversations with J.R.R. Tolkien and Hugo Dyson, another man, a part of another group called the Inklings, that convinced Lewis that the true myth, the true wonder, okay, not just fairy story, I'm talking the philosophy of beauty. The truest beauty is Christ Jesus, the story that gives actual meaning. Lewis did appreciate myth, Beowulf, and he found something in them that gave him a sort of peace, but when fully introduced to the gospel through Tolkien's wisdom, almost pastoral care in that moment during their friendship, he was converted to Christianity. Now, many other things led up to that, but it was pinnacle. Now, why does fairy really matter? As we're talking about, wonder matters. And why does wonder matter? Because wonder keeps us from becoming beastly. Now we're going to get into some theology. The myth now of fairy, the fairy world, should be understood. In 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind." That's interesting. I memorized that verse in 4th grade. I had to. I went to this Christian church, High Presbyterian, uniform, Latin, and I had to memorize a Bible verse. And that was one of them that just stuck with me. Okay, shout out Midway Covenant Christian School. Amazing place. Literally the best education I've ever had, even though it was elementary and middle school, better than high school. Okay, I digress. I just love it. I love it so much. Now, when I learned this verse, I was always confused. A sound mind, or self-discipline. When I think about God, I obviously think about love. I think about power, but self-discipline? Why is this so important? Why is it so important to Paul to write to Timothy, saying these are the 3 things? They're up to bar with literal power and love. Okay, Genesis. Oh, this is like the coolest thing, and I love it so much. Genesis is so much better than I've ever known it to be until recently. These past, I would say, 4 years, I have done some research on that book. It's poetic, but it's a narrative. But it's a narrative with a purpose. And to read it fundamentally, like just take everything for what it is good. But you miss a lot of things. The story of Genesis isn't confusing. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you actually look under the hood, if you look at the enchantment of the story, the wonder, almost that fairy aspect of the talking serpent, you start to see something more. Hear me. The serpent, some scholars believe, is portrayed as such a beast to get this across. It was a being without self-control. It was a being. Whether Satan literally manifested himself as a snake, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's a beast, that it is not man, that it is not made in God's image. It is this animal that appears to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are made in the image of God, but what does this fully mean? We're going to spell that out through here on this channel, but the beginning, kind of the introduction to that, is we're given his character. I do not think it's just our ontology, our physical ontology, like how we look is the image, because we all look different. The image is here. It's in our souls. It's in our ability to choose. Think of it. What's different between a man and a snake, or a bear, or a dog? We get to choose. Now, of course, bears and animals, they choose, but we have an up on that. We have the ability to say no. When a bear is hungry, it must eat. When a snake is afraid, it must strike. It has no reason to say no. But we, being made in the image of God, do. So now, 2 Timothy 1:7 starts to make a whole lot more sense. For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, of fear, this beastly nature. God gave us a spirit of power, of dominion, yes, of love, true love, self-sacrificial love, in a sound mind. The ability to say no, the ability to choose, to reason, to write, to create music, to create poetry, to wonder, to see beauty, and to understand truth. The fairy tale is the introduction to this. Now, G.K. Chesterton, he heavily influenced C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien on this fact, on the fairy, on the wonder and beauty. And he says this: fairy tales do not tell children the dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children the dragons can be killed. And this is exactly what Lewis, what Tolkien does with his mythos, with his world. I'm going to read you some quotes. These are my favorite quotes of evil, of beauty, of wonder, fighting against evil. The first one, so known, Gandalf versus the Balrog. You shall not pass. I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. You cannot pass. You cannot pass. Why? Well, to know this about Lord of the Rings is vital. Now, Tolkien says, when I was conjuring this remarkable work, not like that, I'm using David Ladding language, it was not Catholic, but in revisions, it was very much Catholic. So Tolkien admits the Lord of the Rings in revisions, which in completion, which published, is a Catholic work. And this is a great moment of Catholicism striking through. I am a servant of the secret fire. Tolkien himself has said this is the Holy Spirit. This is a member of the Trinity. The secret fire, the flame of Anor, is the presence of God. So Gandalf, man, we have a lot to talk about. Being like an archangel figure, calls upon the help of God, and God in that moment appears, and the Balrog cannot cross. Have you ever been confused like me? Why a demon? Why a kingslayer? The destroyer of Moria couldn't cross light? A light ball? Like have you ever noticed that? Like Gandalf just kind of snaps the bridge, and the thing, the ultimate foe of the Fellowship, just falls through, besides Sauron. Okay, the nerds are going to come after me. In the Fellowship of the Ring, the ultimate, oh my gosh, they're still going to come after me. Oh my gosh, there's no safe place with Lord of the Rings nerds. But this is about theology, so they probably haven't got this far. Okay, you get the point. We'll go to Sam in Mordor. The beauty of it smote his heart. In the end, the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was a light, high and beauty, forever beyond its reach. Now, Sam was walking in Mordor with Frodo. They were about to destroy the One Ring. Interesting fact about Mordor, the darkness in the mythos of the Lord of the Rings isn't just darkness. It's more of an unlight. See, darkness is the absence of light, but unlight is something completely different. Mordor, what made it so terrible is that there was a perpetual spell of hopelessness. This is why when the Nazgûl scream, the men cover their ears. It's not just because it's loud. It's because they're actually sending depression, like depression bomb, okay, to their opponents, to their prey. Mordor was this. It was the greatest hub of depression, of anxiety, of evil, of torment. And Sam and Frodo are walking through it alone, with no water, no food, no hope. But the light opens. See, the stars were unreached by Mordor's spell, by the clouds of the unlight. And in the moment, Sam sees the clouds open, and he sees a star. So he says this: in the end, the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was light, high, and beauty forever beyond its reach. The clouds of Mordor could never reach the stars. And here we have the final quote, Frodo and Gandalf. Now, Frodo is tired of carrying the ring. He's confused, and he says, I wish it need not happen in my time, this great quest. And Gandalf, being Gandalf, says, so do I. He relates with Frodo in this moment. But he says, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to do, all we have to decide is what we do with the time that is given to us. This resonates in a deep way. Anyone who's ever read that knows, wow, how often have I questioned God, why? Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? And it's as if the Lord is speaking through Gandalf in this moment. Yes, life is difficult. Life is hard. But it's not up to you to decide where you are, but what will you do? He's begging the question, come what may. The man who survived the trenches, who saw his mother die, his friends pass away, his father died before he could even know him, says, come what may. This is what makes The Lord of the Rings so remarkable, so important to our day. It penetrates the darkness of depression because Tolkien actually lived through it. These are Tolkien's words. Yes, it's written through Gandalf, but only Tolkien could have brought this to light. It can only carry the weight that it does because it's real. Because Tolkien had to decide what to do with the time that was given to him. I mean, can you imagine getting a letter from your friend saying, I think I might die. It's up to you, Tolkien. Come on. Pierce the world with beauty. He had to decide. And so do you. That's the remarkable thing about The Lord of the Rings, is that it speaks to the reality in which we live. While we do not have rings to destroy, we have thoughts. We have feelings. We have demons to battle, yes. Aye. Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rules, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This almost seems like Lord of the Rings, but no, it's Christendom. You are a Christian knight. You are a shield maiden. You are called to kill demons. We are called to fight orcs, to fight Saruman and his wickedness. There are still principalities to face. This myth understood is that we are not living in a fake reality. We are not living in a false paradigm. Our religion is not addressing nothing. It's addressing something, and the realities are real. As the great philosopher, profound theologian, probably the greatest thinker of the 20th century, Ferris Bueller says, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. We're going to end the first episode here. Look around. There are demons. Yes, there are angels. There is a war happening. And it would be a shame if you miss it, because you're being affected by it. The world needs you. Hear me. The world actually needs you. You are commissioned to fight in God's army. And I'm saying that not as some elementary call, some VBS, Vacation Bible School, fight in God's army. This isn't childish. It's real. We have to defeat evil. We have to hope when it is dark. We have to hold on to the light. We have to hold on to Jesus Christ.